Let's light up our minds with divine remembrance. This is the second message in the series called Love Loves Love. And it's on learning to be skillful, to find fulfilling relationships in harmony with the soul life. Learning how to be more skillful and aware by acknowledging the one in all, the life of all, lighting up our minds with divine remembrance, learning how to let go and forgive. That's coming up in April. And letting love lead the way. The previous message in this series focused on the essential insight that we all need to be able to foster happy, healthy, fulfilling relationships. And that message, the spoiler, if you didn't listen to it yet, is basically you are that. You are that divine love. God is love. God is our life. And here, meaning love, in the highest sense, as ever conscious, ever compassionate, unconditional love. We are that. It is the life of our life. So, as God is love, and the scriptures and many traditions proclaim that that is the very essence of life. And as I mentioned in the first lesson, that's how Paramahansa Yogananda concluded his autobiography of a yogi. God is love. That's the best news. And we're never without divine support. We have the ability to cultivate divine love in our thoughts and in our words and in our actions. And that cultivation of divine love is really a pathway. It's a way of returning to ourselves, to what we really are. And the only way, because love is not created, it already is. It's the essence of being. And the only way to have love is to bring it and to be it, because we can't make it happen. We can't get it anywhere. It already is. So we can't demand it. We've all tried that. We can't control it. We can only be it and offer it. So today, I want to explore, what it means to open to it. If we acknowledge that God is love, unconditional, omnipresent, not created, not the effect of something we do, but is always available, then it must be for us to learn how to be open to that divine love and how to be instruments of it in our families and in our world. What yoga philosophy and the wisdom traditions tell us is that the key is the mind. The mind can be an open door to the light of love as the divine self within us, or the mind can be like an underground tunnel that takes us into the egoic darkness of scarcity and fear. Through the mind, our awareness either flows toward divine remembrance or toward forgetfulness. It has two directions to flow, two basic directions. There's a teaching in the Christian Bible, which I also heard reflected in Jennifer's song this morning. I thought, I love how Spirit coordinates these things. So this is a teaching story that occurs in the Gospel of Matthew about the disciples who get lost in forgetfulness and get caught up in fear. And it's actually a repeating story. It's repeated in this gospel and in other parts of the scripture, but it's also a repeating story in our own lives. So the disciples have just witnessed Jesus on his miracle tour. And, he's healing the sick, raising the dead, feeding the 5,000 with a few loaves and fishes. And at the end of the day, The disciples get into the ship with their teacher to travel to the other side of the lake. And this is a journey to another level of consciousness, that they're traveling to, but it's not so easy on the journey for them. And Jesus is tired after a long day at the miracle factory, so he lays down to get some sleep. And when he does, the storms come and the wind assails the boat. The disciples get scared. They're afraid they're going to perish. And they call out to him and say, help, save us. Then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. Do you ever feel like you're going to drown in your worries, in your fears? Yeah. He replied, oh, you of puny faith. Yeah. Why are you so afraid? I mean, he must have been a little exasperated at that point because they were on the miracle tour. And they forgot what they just saw. How this divine is providing. Divine is providing. Wait, we're afraid. Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. There it is. So when we approach the story as an allegory, a metaphysical teaching about the mind, we find a familiar reminder about the power of awakened consciousness to save us from living in fear. And it really, like we were just practicing in meditation this morning, really just takes one breath to make that return, a conscious breath to make that return. The boat represents consciousness, the various levels of mind and awareness within us. The Christ mind, signified by Jesus, that is illumined by truth, and the ordinary mind of the disciples who are tossed about by the winds of doubt and worry and fear. In the ordinary mind. But if you understand it metaphysically, this is all one being. The Christ mind in you, the worried mind in you, all one. It's one boat. They're in the same boat. Even when the disciples have just witnessed the miraculous nature of life, then the winds come, the worries come. So the effect of where we choose to put our attention is not difficult for us to observe or even to understand. We live this story. That's why it's repeated. I mean, two versions of that story are in the Gospel of Matthew. They see the miracles, they go out in the ship, it gets windy, they forget, they're afraid. The awakened consciousness says, don't be afraid. Wake up. So we know what it's like ourselves, when we are anchored in the heart of self-knowledge. And then we're aware of love as the very ground of our being. And we know what it's like when we stray from that awareness and get tangled up in worry and anger and fear or jealousy, tossed about by the winds of doubt and change. Yeah, it can be difficult to be observant, to stay awake, vigilant about where our awareness is heading, where it's taking us, where the mind is taking us. So we tend to get distracted, and lose touch with ourselves, our deeper self, and, move through activity and interactions of our day without tuning in to the love station, without tuning inward and becoming self-aware, aware of the higher self, capital S, your soul, your divine self. And anytime we do become self-aware, love is there because that's what we are. So to light up our mind, we need to pay attention to what we are tuning into, what's happening in the boat that you're in. The mind is like a radio station that plays talk shows, reality shows, unreality shows, music. Something is always going on in those airwaves. So tune in, notice, find out. Is it useful? What you're listening to? Is it in tune with the truth of what you are and how you want to live? Tune in, find out. If it's not useful, we can change the channel. We can change the focus of our attention. So I was thinking the other day, I have never needed to subscribe to Spotify or to any other, web-based music player because I am my own Spotify. Songs arise, music arises in my mind all the time. And usually the songs that come are supportive of divine remembrance, but not always. If you find yourself listening to Ray Charles singing Born to Lose, change the channel. Even though we like Ray, it's not a good message. So when what is playing in our head is not supportive of truth, if it doesn't bring more clarity or peace and is not conducive to love, it's important to notice that. We're not, what we are as spiritually conscious being is greater than the mind. So that's really important to know. We have the ability to observe the mind. We're not the mind. What we are as supreme consciousness is the light that illumines the mind and makes thinking possible. So we also have that ability to direct where our attention is going to go. We can't avoid the songs that spontaneously start up in our mental field. They just come. Thoughts just come. But we can notice them and we can redirect our attention if a change is needed. So like Spotify, tell the mind what you like. And also, no more of that. Don't like that one. In yoga practice, this is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. It is noticing and reflecting on what is not useful or is in opposition to the dharmic restraints and observances, spiritually conscious ways of living, ethical living. And then if what we are thinking, the station we're tuned into is contrary to any of that, then we cultivate the opposite of it. We change that station. We bring in something that is harmonious with the truth of our being. Changing the direction of the stream of thought is a mental discipline that makes a profound difference. It makes a different impression. It impresses us, and it can change our feeling, and it can change our attitude about ourselves, about life, about others. It makes the mind more luminous. Sometimes people say, well, if I don't worry, who's going to do it? Well, it's not an effective strategy. If you really want to get things done, if you really care about things, then the mind needs to be calm and peaceful and clear. So you have all your resources to do what needs to be done. So what is needed to continually return to love? I think what's needed is a commitment to that. Decide that's what we're up to. It's our priority. A commitment to live intentionally, to be mindful of the opportunity that we have each and every day to awaken to love and to be it and to live it, to offer it. To be aware of how quickly time passes. And refuse to put off what we know is important. You know, what has heart and meaning. What is most important. Yesterday was the birth anniversary of my spiritual teacher, Roy Eugene Davis. And coming up will be the 5th anniversary of his passing on March 27th, 2019. That's coming up in a couple weeks. And I'll be in India on that day, Lord willing. And I will have the opportunity on that occasion to honor him. Everything he's given me, has given us, and in the holy city of Varanasi, the abode of our spiritual ancestors. I feel very blessed for that opportunity. And I often think about how my teacher was love, capital L, in expression. You know, he was not outwardly emotive. That would be putting it mildly. You know, or sentimental. Yet his commitment to serve all was a profound experience of love in expression, to witness that and to receive it. He often said that Kriya Yoga is karma yoga, meaning that the goal of the practice of Kriya Yoga, this path of self and God realization, naturally culminates in a life of selfless service. It also culminates in love, in becoming love, because the two are inseparable. Lahiri Mahashaya said, if the practice of yoga does not result in love and desire for God realization, it is not yoga. So I want to conclude with offering to you this morning a prose piece that I wrote a little while ago, you know, about the opportunity we have to love one another, to be conscious of love, that presence of love, and to be aware of the time that we have for that while we are here. So I called this piece, How Much Time Do I Have to Love You? This morning, as the beach fog begins to clear, I see a young man in a black hoodie with baggy camouflage pants piled up at the ankles like train cars that stopped too fast and came to rest on his bright white sneakers. He's walking the shoreline with an older man in tailored black pants, a gray wool tweed jacket, and a black felt hat with a brim. They walk together slowly at a steady pace. Then the young man walks a step ahead, stops, turns, takes out his phone, moves back in close and angles his face towards his companion. He holds one arm around the old man to steady him and stretches forth the other to capture the moment. He takes the photo, then holds it up for both of them to see. The old man nods and places his hand gently in the middle of the young man's back, the hidden side of the heart. They turn and walk on. Their stride is in sync, for now their cadence is a stroll. The young man's gait is lighter, as if his feet naturally spring from the sand. The old man's feet, weighted with time, barely lift as he steadily pushes forward until they are both out of sight. The tenderness of their walk raises the question, how much time do I have to love you? I see them again at noon when they walk back. This time slower. The young man with his right arm bent, held close to his body, the elder with his left arm laced in. Together they walk, arm in arm, and slowly disappear from view. How much time do I have to love you? My guru's answer to that question was, eternally. I can always love you and bless you wherever you are in time and space, he said. I can always love you and bless you wherever you are in time and space, he said. Those were his last words to me. That was his commitment. Instruction for the heart. Listen. What is more powerful than this? To hear, to know, to remember, you are loved and you are blessed always. Remember, you are love. Now love. It's time. Om.